is showing up with a lot to prove here, Saf. They have not missed a beat since last month. And this time, they're having to play the faithful opponents of the now third iteration, the Dash before times 3, which I'll probably say Goober Dash at some point down the road. Which, by the way, Royalty is going to be on the Alpha side. Other side is going to be the Goober Dash team. And here are the weapons. Yeah, this is all coming back to me now because I do remember the Ink Brush. There's the Blue Dapples. There's Infa on that Vanilla 10. You know it, you love it by now. RBP Deco from pick there as well, and of course Royalty kind of dishing out very similar weapons that we saw from the previous set.
Wow, but Keone, the onslaught that just came out from Dash Before Time was so fast because that already was 2 members down on the side of Royalty, and the tower now, or the zone now being taken in their hands. And immediately, look at how spread out these folks are. There is eyes on every entry point that could possibly be had on the side of Royalty. David using that Trizuka, having the vacuum pop though, just not a second later coming from Infra. That saved them big time from that Trizuka pop, but also it saved them from David coming any closer, getting taken down in the process. That's Joa on the stamp. Good pick from them trying to take Che out, which actually is going to be a major pick at that because Che is one of their most aggressive players on the side of Dash Before Time. So with the Kraken 2 coming out from Bolt, there's a little bit of displacement there, but still, Keone, no painting tools for the side of Royalty. That's the Dashing Before Time 3 down to 20 unit points left.
You think that you think the Dashing team Goober Dash had a lot to prove this month? I think they've kind of felt there. I feel like they're trying to take it all on Royalty, which gave them the 4th place exit there. This is the last ditch ever, by the way, for Royalty. They actually take 2 members out, make that 3. That's gonna be the lead. That's gonna lead change. Wow, what am I talking about? Zones change. There we go. That's the correct
Probably
word.
Feels that way when you're going from 0 to 5.
Yeah, 0 to 5. That was all of us. That was sudden all the way through. But hey, 5 points remaining. They have a big push to work with, but of course you can't put your foot off the gas pedal quite yet there if you are Goober Dash. Tormy's trying to be with the one with the Ink Brush, but they go 3 down once again, and Royalty is quickly picking up steam here in the winning roles of this game, even though they are of course 2 down.
Yeah, but still, Royalty is so quick to follow up. That's Tormy trying to jump in and cause some damage. Not going to really find any contact with the ground there. You can see Pick using their Rapid Blaster to try to get some more paint on the zone and even maybe poke a little bit if they can reach. But it's not really enough for what they're trying to do. Tormy now following back up to try to get back in the zone. That's taking 1 member down and also almost taking out another. Actually, yeah, that was a trade. So again, that is going to be the Dash Before Time taking the zone back again. Che trying to break in with the Reef Slider here to see if they can initiate a fight and take a little bit of distraction away from the objective, but it looks like they're maybe just trying to pinpoint where the members of Royalty are going to want to go, trying to maybe diagnose what their next steps are, but it just, I don't know, Keone, it seems like once 1 member of the Dash Before Time goes down, that's Royalty's time to strike, but even then, with 2 members down and all of the distraction being taken away from the zone, that penalty is just ticking away with nobody from Royalty there to follow up.
As soon as we noted that Bolt gets that critical double there with that Kraken there, but that follow needs to be on point at that stage. Joel, I thought he made the jump shot with the Ultra Stamp, and then decides, it didn't work. Let's just throw the Ultra Stamp. They actually get a pick by themselves. And the big thing that Royalty has going for them because of that critical switch there was they have been winning out a good chunk of these fights. They are getting a good they're having a decent read on the Goober Dash team right now. Again, we're seeing a lot of moments where Che and I believe Tori is the one on the Ink Brush are going down quick. The 10 is also going down on top of it too with 40 points remaining. Now they're out of the penalty points. Royalty could definitely push the pace a little further if they choose to or opt to just defend the zone. Che's gonna try to go in there with that restart, trying to see if they can cheese the zone split right then and there, which they may be able to with the Illumity assist with members going down. That was a huge zone split they needed at that point in time for Goober Dash, and now they're gonna be the ones possibly to take down on those penalty points. Maybe look for the KO just to try to seal it. But right now, minute left to go, Saf. This could get interesting quick.
Yeah, but that was the risk that Che had to take there, Keone, because you could see when they went in for the Reef Slider to get the front part of the zone, that was more so on the side of Royalty. They had to rely on their teammates to try and backfire onto their side of the zone. And so huge risk to be taken by Che, but it really did pay off. But Noah being the last one off the line, and they die on the zone at that. So that is the Dash Before Time saying, putting the flag down first. They found landfall first, and they're putting their flag and making their claim.
Landfall, first claim here in the set here for map number 1 going over to Goober Dash. And I have a feeling both teams are like, all right, we got to get that first map on the board just so we have something to get going for. But now it's time for counter picks. And honestly, that first push was really all they needed there, just to get themselves a huge cushion to work off of. It did get a little dicey throughout. Let's be real there. A lot of fights were game won by Royalty at critical moments, but we could also say the exact same thing with the dash before time, or the dashing, if you will, for Goober Dash. But hey, a good job at least being able to hold the line, trying to keep their cool in those moments there. If I feel like it's not really 1 or 2 critical picks, it's just being able to win out the team fights when they started to matter the most. And by the end of it all, it really helped Goober Dash in this situation. Now we get into counter picks here for Royalty. I'm sure they may have a few things on a few things to think about now, especially with their opponent in question.
Yeah, and I want to make note too that it seemed to me that the dash before time really had a hard time with Joa's stamp. Because most times when I would see Joa with the stamp, they were chasing somebody down, or they had already gotten their target and were on to somebody else. Which is interesting to me, because I feel that stamp hit or miss is kind of something that you can just avoid and respect, similar to Trizuka, and just let it run its course. Or you can be quicker to outsmart it and get behind it and then get the splat and just kind of waste it, sort of thing. Or like or enforce the person to use it early when they don't want to. But I don't feel like Joa had that problem throughout that game. Like, even though Royalty found themselves on the back foot at the end, I don't feel that Joa really had an issue with using their stamp. And so I feel when you want to do a map mode that is a lot bigger and has a lot of open space, such as Shipshape Carbuco, like, the stamp was really advantageous. And actually, not only are they picking splat zones again, but they're picking Barnacle and Dime, another very open map with not a lot of overhanging hazards. So definitely have space to throw some stuff, have some space for Trizuka to really stake its claim. Looking at you, David. However, I also think you have to be watching out for Infa's Trizuka as well, because they were able to so tactfully switch between their tent shield and use the Trizuka when it counted. So
I think they were the 10th player from the last round, right?
Yes.
Because if that was so, they had the ink back. But that goes into the same question of whether they can lob that shot with the ink bag and then try to get as much advantage as they can. Because on the other side, they did shut down a few Trizuka shots. I felt like that from what we saw there from Royalty's end. That's the ultimate question. There is, can the rest of Royalty be able to solve it, especially with this Barnacle Dime platform counterpick that they have in store for Goober Dash? Because Goober Dash definitely picked up steam towards the end. Same with Royalty throughout. So could be seeing the same back and forth. So ultimately, I think what it's going to boil down to is not only the zones cap, how much advantage can you push? That's the thing we got to look out for.
I do think as well, I think that so far with what I've seen with Royalty and like who they've come up against, the dash before time has done the best in combating David's Trizuka strikes, or Trizuka shots, I should say. David has a very keen eye for their Trizuka, and consistently we've seen them getting picks on people, and I feel like to Goober to dash, the dash and Goober before time has done a really good job at adjusting for those shots. And as I say it, once again, Keon, as the crow flies, that's going to be the dashing before time taking the zone first. But also, they found themselves in a 2-man down advantage within the first 30 seconds.
It's gonna, again, the opening push will dictate a lot of stuff, because it can get your lockup positioning set up in such a way where hey, you could be able to take this home from 100 to 0. That's what they almost got out of it before they lost too many members in that juncture. So here's Infa. There's that ink back trying to protect the rest of the team. Just fired it point blank, and it's another quick wipeout right away for Goober Dash. So once again, they can go for that lockout. Look and see what Infa's doing there. They're just trying to defend the zone and then move 2 forward up. They got Shade, they got Tormy, you got the Blue Dapples and the Ink Brush. Paintbrush, excuse me, is exactly what I was trying to say there. Trying to move up as a unit, but how long can they hold this one through? Because we did see Royalty, exactly what we're seeing here right now, win out some of these fights when they start to matter. That's the wipeout. That should be the zone split. And now look for Royalty to see if they can set themselves up for better offense.
Well, much quicker on flipping the zone at that game, because I feel Royalty was really kind of twiddling their thumbs a little bit in the last zones game, and they weren't really going for objective as much, more so trying to win the team fight against the dash inning before time 3, the Goobers. So I think now with the penalty being down, this is going to put them in a really great spot here to try and follow up. They're not going to overextend. They are certainly not going to try to push forward without any sort of help from other teammates here, but that's 1 point remaining in between the lead, and it's not going to be enough, thank goodness, for Infa and their vacuum shot, because that is going to change the zones back into the dash before time's favor.
Yeah, and they already got that delayed wipe. So now look, now you're seeing Shay being full on aggressive there with Blue Devils. Look for the restart to just try to barge right in. They're gonna have to just retreat, but they do go down. They're not gonna be able to charge that one then and there. And again, it's always these aggressive maneuvers that Goober Dash has been trying to go for, and Royalty always seems to have an answer for them at each go round. But what Goober Dash has going for them at this juncture is still being able to weather the storm when it starts to matter the most here. Kraken is going to be there. It's just obviously not going to put down a lot of patient play, taking out Tormy with that Kraken. Bolt's able to do so, and that tent could have not been any more perfect in terms of placement, but I think they did go down anywho. And this back and forth continues on. It's really going to be a game of cat and mouse chase until, well, there's that wipeout, and that's going to be Royalty getting that wipeout there. They should be able to penalty points here soon.
But once again, Keon, that was Joa going in for that. They got a double pick and went down themselves. That resulted in the wipeout, and now the penalty for Royalty is eliminated. So this is the dash before time, the Goobening, trying to break back in here. They have Killer Whale, they have Reef Slider, they also have that flying tent shield, and already it's immediately green and back in favor of the dash inning before time, the Goobers. So just consistently, it seems like both teams are able to break back out. They can win a team fight when it counts. However, it's just a matter of who can really hold it down for longer. And so far, I think it's hard to say with spot zones with 2 skilled teams, because it just becomes this big tit for tat kind of match. But I think here is going to be where it's major, because I like that Pick is staying further behind. They're not overextending themselves. They're kind of watching what's happening. But that's 3 different members down. I don't even know who picked who in that moment. All I know is that now the map is pink, and that's Royalty trying to follow up and eliminate their own penalty again.
If I'm not mistaken, Blush's tap shots with the pencil got a double on top of it, and that could have not been any more clutch. That was almost going into KO territory there at that exact moment in time. And now Goober Dash has to know whether to get a third storm here, which they should be able to do here with the 2 members down situation that they have. Now they'll be the one taking on the penalty points, but they have to avoid overextending way too much to give Royalty a chance to move forward. They've done a good job at least shutting down any movements that David and Joel would have been trying to do with their special, such as the stamp and such as the Zuka. That is a pick, by the way, that I just saw. David taking out Tormy with, I believe, a suction bomb on top of it. It's gonna now be the next question. How do you stop Goober Dash at this juncture right now? They're 5 points short, and that's a wipeout. That's huge now. Now you can get yourself set up in position to try to set themselves up for offense. But Shay is there, and they were clutch trying to defend the zone with all their might. But that zone is still gonna be kept. They have to get everybody over there at the exact same time. Joel is going to get shut down, but they will at least get the trade. That's still going to be very nice. Everybody is going to try to rush into that zone from Goober Dash. Jay's able to get a few more and trying to rush in, and there's that Reef Slider able to get the other zone split, and they were able to weather the other storm. And again, it almost feels like the same script from game 1. Goober Dash had to stop another frenzy push that Royalty was dishing. Now they're going to be up 2-0, and it's going to be match point for Goober Dash to see if they can punch a ticket to Grands.
Yeah, Goober Gash having an insanely different run and narrative from last month, because last month it was like Royalty didn't even give them the time of day. It was a 2-0 set in stone. Who knows if it was hard or if it wasn't. We don't totally recall. I mean, Keon and I kind of recall. It definitely was a fight for the books. However, it seems that like Goober Gash, 2 Goober, 2 Gash, 3, the time of the great dash before time of the awakening of Goober 2 Dash. They seem to be they seem to have taken quite a bit of time and care to prepare themselves this time, because I also think that maybe they had predicted that the same people that they saw last month would be in the same spots where they are this month.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible, but it's also to also add to your thought there. A lot of teams from last month they could have easily prepared for there too, because you had Celestial, you also had on. I keep thinking it's Honorbound. I'm thinking Inkbound is probably one of the few.
Inkbound.
Yeah, it was Inkbound. I swear I've seen Honorbound elsewhere. Probably it very much would be. But yeah, in this case, Goober Dash feels like they're a lot better prepared. Their Royalty was hoping if they can do them in a second time this month, but this time dropping them to lower brackets, as you see, they can make a run for themselves. But Goober Dash has solved a few riddles against Royalty already, but now we got to go into the third map. Now they realize that the past two zones attempt has been no good, but even though they were close, so this one, if they go for a third zones, they have to have the right strategy in play. They could theoretically think, okay, maybe we could tackle him in one other zone time, just happening to not be the other one that we were thinking of, or they have to look to a different map mode that they could aim for. I know I talked about the game 2 that happened last month, but the problem that Royalty had there was that they were also down a huge deficit and they needed a last minute push. So I wouldn't be surprised if they for some reason don't go clans. Well, they do, but it's actually gonna be Crab Leg for their counter pick, and I think I kind of get why here in this case.
Yeah, I don't think going for zones for the third time would be like chances are.
You would be wise, right?
Yeah, it just based on previous events, it doesn't seem like that would be the wise choice. Crab Leg Capital, though, however, I think is going to be the correct choice, because I do think that this, based on with what they've been able to get away with, what Royalty has been able to get away with, special stacking wise, I think this is a good choice for them. Just again, because I don't think that Dash Before Time, the dashing, has some sort of follow-up or way to counterattack some of the things that that Royalty's been bringing to the table. However, I do think that this, again, there's a lot of overhanging hazards here, so I do think that the Trizuka from David can be a little bit of a detriment here. However, they've been proving us wrong time and time again that they know their shot, and they are marksmen with the Trizuka, so they've been proving us wrong with that. However, I do think that somebody like Blush, who's very good at tap shotting, I do also think that somebody like Joa, like I said, who was getting away with a lot of stamp stuff, very prepared with stamp stuff, I think that they can do a similar thing here, because I mean, Crab Leg just kind of works in that way to where if you don't win the team fight in the middle section, like, you're going to be locked out no matter what. So be watching on the flank, watch that left-hand side. I'm sure that especially for the folks of Royalty, they need to be watching on the flanking left-hand great side. And I think that I think for the Dash Before Time, they got to be watching for David, and they got to be watching for Joa.
Two quick points I want to throw at you here as we do get the weapons showing up. We got Bolt switching over to the custom range blaster with that Kraken. Now, if we are talking about Eon mini patches from many times ago, no unit this time, we would obviously be talking about Kraken piece. But no, we are past that era. This is gonna be as we're gonna see quick pushes right out of the gate here for Royalty, as they do take 3, but I don't get too many plans in sight. But on the other side, Shade dishing out the regular spot is a very phenomenal choice for this map with how much coverage that Crab Tank can give. But the other thing that Royalty also has to do for my second point is, how do you deal with Infa, by the way? That tent, I feel like, has been showing out some of the advances that they could have had. So, and that's the one thing that Royalty may have to solve, is how do you deal with the tent that's maybe giving them a lot of headaches throughout. As we do get to see David trying to go through, not able to get the pick, but they finally do right in the last few seconds. The push, by the way, already through. 1+1 is the score so far. Not the strongest of pushes, but they are points on the board here, Sap.
Yeah, and I want to say that Tormi in the first few seconds has been showing us the best gameplay that I feel like we've gotten to see from them so far on the stream today, because already that last pick they got was the third one that we've seen in the first like minute and a half of this game coming just from them and from Infra as well. Tormy and Infra are splatting up a storm on these sides here, and who would have thought that the Tenbrella would be the one to take the great side?
That's the biggest surprise of all. They are gonna get the wipeout. Great defensive hold so far from Royalty. Again, quickly picking up that free claim just so that not only to get the second one, but now try to get space built. And yeah, points on the board. A little bit of an interesting surprise that Info could be the one using the tent on the wait time instead of the ramp. But that's hey, if it works out, why not? But
if it works, it works.
Yep, and another quick tap shot there from Blush, able to get another pick, but no advances so far. The rest of Goober Dash has kind of running circles around them. Tormy has already gotten a few of them out of the picture, or probably able to build up the space that they need. And Royalty could have easily pushed up as much as they could, but they are getting shut down in whichever way they can. And that once more, Goober Dash is already close to their base, but the power climb not quite there yet.
Yeah, and you can see Che is trying to take distraction from David and from Blush away from objective there. That allowed safe passage for the most part for Dash to break that basket open once again. Look at Tormy with the follow-up and narrowly avoiding Blush's shots, but that's Joa with the follow-up there to take them down. But Infa is going to also be making their mark at the same time. Che providing a jumping point there for any folks to try to get in down to the 46 mark, and no points to be had for Royalty so far. This is a completely different narrative from what we were seeing earlier, Keon, and from last month for sure.
Yeah, very different narrative, and I feel like Goober Dash may have taken a few things that they need to learn from last month over to this one here as well. As Himpo's gonna be the one with that power clam there, and it looked like the top just a bit under. I think just a little under, or it might have been a pass play for all I know. But it was caught by one of the players there on top of it, and they realized, all right, I know what we need to do. We got to get that score in, and it's down to 27 points remaining. And in fact, 3 members already down. But these are some clutch finds here from Bolt, and they will get the barrier back up just in the nick of time, and that's at least a decent enough hold. But there is still 1 minute and 32 left on the clock, and this is almost shaped up to be something very similar for Royalty from last month, where they were able to fall back from a huge deficit. But this looks a little bit more difficult this time, especially with how huge this map can get here in Crab Leg, Saf.
Yeah, but you know what, Keon? For Clam Blitz, once again, we're seeing a really similar thing play out here for Royalty back in the Roulette game, because Roulette did this exact same thing. They slowly chipped away at their basket, and it looks like here that Dash is doing the exact same thing, and Royalty doesn't know what to do with it. They keep on making smaller pushes and chipping away at points like as little and minimally as possible, while it seems like Royalty does not have enough time to really get things together and actually get their own economy up. And by the time they do, 1 or 2 people are down, and so you don't want to push in with that. See, look at that. That's 2 different members down from Tormy up on the top left side there. And Tormy, yeah, getting taken down by Bolt is great, but look at this. All the members of Royalty are trying to push in to they're trying to push out of their zone here, but it seems like Dash is not really giving them any space to do that.
Infa's critical finds, they're at least buy themselves a little bit more time, but now they have to pull off this comeback in order, but this time to stay in the set here, and this is what needs to happen here is where do you get that first push start? They take out Infa, they took out Pick, by the way. Infa going down is the 10th down, and so, but how do you respond with the rest of the group that's kind of following up right then and there? Here's Tormy, who's been a menace so far in this Crab Leg matchup, has been making sure that Royalty has no entrances in, and this may have bought themselves just a bit more time. Weightbreaker has been dished out. They should be able to find a few members in. They have to carve out a path. They take 2 members out. They have to hurry up right now. They take 3 out there as well. And they will get the first push in. They will get a lot of clips into the picture, but they gotta keep this push sustained for as long as they can. 39 points remaining. Kraken being used. They're having a hope to clear everybody out of the picture, but their clamps on the board. Yes, 27 points remaining, but everybody is done and dusted. There is no chance for a comeback anymore. Royalty ran out of gas at the last moment, and just like the last 2 maps, Goober Dash holds by the skin of their teeth to win the set 3-0, and they advance to Grands.
Can we talk about how lucky that clam spawn was for Royalty? Can we talk about that? Because that was 0 to 27. That was 0 to 27 in the matter of in the span of overtime. 0 to 27. That is nearly all of the clams on the map plus extra. So literally the stars were aligning for Royalty there to try and see if they could push this best of 5 into a reverse sweep. But to no avail, to no dice. That is the Goobening dash before time, the third, the time of the great Goober Gash, the Goobening Paradigm Starfish pickup. Moving on to grand finals.
Look at the amount of clams they had. You know, they're two very serendipitous spawns, but this was also a huge deficit that they needed to hold for as long as they can. No members needed to go down at that exact moment, and they just didn't have enough left in the tank to get the comeback start. I almost had flashbacks. I'm gonna be real here, Saf. I almost had flashbacks to that game 2 last month. It almost happened the exact same way, but Goober Dash gave themselves enough of a cushion to prevent that from happening a second time. There, at least with Goober Dash, it wasn't their tournament lives on the line. It was their chance to get grand finals. Goober Dash solved all the riddles and are making it grands, and it's been a great story for them. Royalty has to do it again, this time in losers finals, awaiting whatever happens in losers round 4.
Could it be Roulette again, though? Could they fight Roulette for a third time? Is Roulette going to roll the dice, red or black, for a third time in this tournament in losers finals? They want it, Keon. The third time's the charm.
I hate to break it to you, it's not Royalty that did it. It was Celestial and Roulette. That could happen in round 5 though.
Celestial and Roulette. It could happen in round 5, but still, I want to see it happen. I really want to see that happen. But the dash before time is going to be sitting up in their ivory tower of grand finals for a little while until